Hello, welcome to StudioPixel and welcome to this Maya basic course. This is the first video and this courseware is actually designed for those people who are actually willing to learn Maya from a very scratch level. In this video, we are going to discuss about the user interface of Maya. Now, when you open Maya, you will see this window more or less because it might happen that you are using a different kind of version of Maya, but maximum or majority of this will be same, that I can assure you. Okay, so when you open Maya, you will see this many things in front of you, and it sometimes make also scared, like where to start with, where the things which is important and which is not. This entire course is going to help you out for choosing you where to start and how you can proceed in Maya. So let's start. And the top portion is the menu portion. The all important menus are out there. Now if you see, the first two menu is a very common menu with for any applications out there, like file and edit. Now there are certain things which are different, and I'm just going to give you an idea which are going to be very important for us in future. Now if you go to file menu, you will see a lot of things are absolutely same as the other applications out there, like new, open scene, save as another. But apart from that, there are other stuffs also, like importing and also send to other softwares like 3ds Max, Unity, Unreal, or maybe export your objects into a very different format like OBJ or 3ds or maybe FBX or whatever you want. So those actions being made from here. Apart from all this, there are few more important things which I will show you in the later chapters, but just to mention them here. Create referencing and project window. These two are very important things in production pipelines. There is a video in my channel that regarding the referencing and how to use the referencing also. So please check them out once you are aware of certain things in this course. Okay, so after that you go to the edit menu. Now, edit menu is also consisting of a very common things like cut, copy, paste. But apart from that, in Maya you can have duplicate spatial, duplicate with transform and grouping, as well as parenting also. Now we generally don't use all these things. We generally use shortcut also, but it's always be very good to know, because you never know, sometimes certain tools or certain commands gets changed. So it's better to know the location of those commands in the menu. After that, file and edit, we'll jump into the main part of this particular software. That is the create menu, where we can create a lot of different things like knobs, polygon, volumetrics, lights, cameras, and curves that we'll see in a little bit later on. Now if you see that these menus uh, also get changed according to the departments that you are having. Department means in the sections that has been segregated in Maya. Now that can be found over here. Here right now we are into the modeling section, and if you change it to rigging, you will see certain menu elements got changed. Now that only happened after this window menu. Now apart from this, everything get changed once you change these divisions. Like if you skip into move into the animation section, you can see after Windows it's key, playback, and visualize options. If you move it to the FX, it starts with N particle, fluids, N cloth, and other stuffs. So it's and if you go to render, you see texturing, rendering tool, toon shading, stereoscopy, and all those things. Now it's sometimes really confusing that when I should click into what. Now the thing is that you don't have to worry, because the kind of work you are actually doing, it's connected to that. If you are working on modeling, then you are in the modeling section, and according to that modeling sections you will get the menus. So you don't have to worry about that much. And first of all, going beyond to this particular point, I would like to tell you something very, very serious. Now, when you start a software, do not try to replicate something you have already learned in a different softwares. Let's suppose we have started, maybe you have started with Macs. Now, when you are learning user interface, you should ask something that which you have already done in 3ds Max, or maybe Blender, or maybe Cinema 4D, or any other software, and you might ask that what is actually how actually I can achieve that particular thing which I have done in Cinema 4D, or maybe I have done in 3ds Max. Now that those kind of comparisons are good to just raising the questions, but every software has a different kind of architecture, and every software has in its own style of working. So you just need to go through first, learn all the options, or at least the important basic options, and then you start comparing with the other softwares, or maybe the earlier software that you have learned. If you haven't learned anything before this, don't worry. This particular video is made absolutely for you, that you are starting from scratch. So let's move on. After that, you will see this particular part having a lot of different kind of actions, like your selection filter. Selection filters are like that if you are having into a lot of objects, which kind of objects you want to select and which kind of objects you don't want to select. That is happening from here. Then that can be controlled from here. Now after that, there is a snapping options, and these are the rendering menu. Again, all these things I'm saying, I will repeat again and again in the future videos. These are for the referencing, so that you can recall, yes, I have already heard about this particular part, and this is something which is related to selection. This is something which is related to snapping, or maybe this is something related to rendering. So apart from this, just below that, these are called shelf. This is very important and very interesting in Maya, that these are the shortcuts of your lot of actions you want to generally use in productions while working on. So this is perhaps the second most important part in the software, apart from your viewport, which you will be spending time maximum. So as I have said you, this portion, the larger area is called viewport. This is the main work area where you do your models, you create your models, or putting your lights, setting up all the setting all the bones for your characters, or maybe objects, applying the textures and all, see the scene development, and everything. Above the viewport, there are tools which you see is connected to viewport, that we will come once we start working. So you don't need to worry about all this right now. On the left hand side is the toolbox, which is the major tool, which is consisting like selection, position like move tool, rotate tool, and the scale tool. Apart from that, whenever you will use certain tools, that will also join over here as a reset tool command. Just below that, you will see these are the viewport setups, like panel layout for the viewports. Like first of all, the first option is the 3D view. If you click on the second one, you will get 4 different views of the same scene, like one from top, one from front, side, and perspective. Now before going forward, I would like to tell you a very interesting facts about these things. Now these are called viewports. There are 2 types of viewports out there. One is the perspective viewport. The other type of viewport is the orthographic viewport. Now you can see the name orthographic is consisting something like orthodox graphical viewport. Now orthodox graphical viewport is exactly like graph paper. I think all of you, I presume that all of you have seen graph paper while doing mathematics. Now this particular viewport are something like that, only working on 2-dimensional. There is no 3-dimensional calculation over here. I will explain you how this thing works and how to navigate through. Apart from that, there are other panel layouts also, like two panels or maybe a single panel, which come out with as an outliner. Now let's go back to the basic viewport settings. Apart from things, at the bottom you will get the timeline, which is generally used for the animation purpose or the simulation purpose. Below that you will have the timeline settings and as well as typing for some scripts. Though there are a lot of different ways of typing the commands or scripts in Maya. Maya supports two different kind of languages. One is MEL or Maya embedded language, as well as the Python, which is a very robust one. This one is a status, and this will help you out whether there is a warning messages out there, you have made certain mistake, something is wrong, like error message is coming out, your calculation is not working, or maybe you have done something which is not possible as a command. That information will come over here. Apart from this, on the right hand side is also one of the most important part. Now here you will get your channel box or layer editor. Now top portion is the channel box, the bottom portion is the layer editor. So right now we don't have any objects in our scene, so that's why there's nothing to show and there's no layers out there. And as well as the channel box. The channel box consisting of different informations like your positional value, like your rotational values, and or scale or any other extra information or application that you are using on that. Apart from that, you can go to the attribute editor. Again, this attribute editor consisting of every information that a particular object can have. So this will be also very important, which will come as a shortcut key of Control A for attribute editor. Now apart from that, there are modeling toolkit out there. As we are into the modeling section, this will be very handy for us. Apart from that, there is one more option that is called XGen, which I will teach you in a very later part of the set when we'll start FX. So these are the things which has been kept in the very basic user interface. But apart from that, I'll show you one more a very important thing, which is a very useful tool, and a lot of people actually ignores this part. And the top corner portion, you will see there is a called workspace. Now if you click on that workspace, you will see a lot of different kind of a workspace that has been set up already as a default, or sorry, as a preset value. So the first setup that you will see is the Maya Classic window. Apart from that, there is a modeling standard. Now at the moment you will see the modeling standard, you will see your entire setup has been changed and the modeling toolkit come up, but your timeline goes. Why? Because the timeline is not important for modeling. Absolutely not important. Yeah, you can say that, I'd like to see how the modeling actually works while it's animating, but that argument is a very special one. So the modeling doesn't need this timeline, so that's why there's been designed something like that. Apart from that, there's some expert mode. Now this expert mode is very interesting one, while your workspace got way more bigger and you can actually work without any menu or tool setting or small tools options out there, and you already grab all the options as shortcuts and all, so that you don't need them to apply certain things. So everything is actually on your keyboard shortcut. So this is an export mode. Go to the sculpt mode. You can see there's a sculpt mode which will come up, and automatically this shelf will be converted and come to the sculpt options like sculpt brushes and all. And as well as that UV editing. If you want to go for UV editing, you can see your viewport will be there. This is your UV editor where you make the textures and all. So you don't have to worry about all these things at this point of time when you are starting. You just go to Maya Classic View, and this is something which is very easy to understand at the beginning. You don't have to worry about a lot of different things. Let them there, let the user interface be as it is, like that. Okay, so as we have done this a basic idea about the user interface, let's move forward. As we have earlier said that there are two different kind of perspective, uh, two different kind of viewports are out there. One is the perspective and one is the orthographic. Now orthographic viewport and the perspective viewports are two-dimensional viewport and the three-dimensional viewport. The perspective is the three-dimensional, whereas the two orthographic viewports are the two-dimensional viewports, like top, now front and side. Now why these are two and three-dimensional? Because in the perspective viewport I can navigate around the viewport, like tumbling around it and look at the viewport in different angles, whereas in orthographic viewport it's locked. You can see orthographic views are currently locked, so we cannot move, tumble around our scene, but we still can pan through it. Now how to pan through it, that I'm going to tell you after a few minutes. So I can pan around, but I cannot tumble. So in perspective, I can tumble as well as I can pan, or I can zoom in and out. So zoom in and out is for everything. Panning is allowed, but tumble is not allowed in the orthographic. So these are the difference between the orthographics and the uh, perspective. Now let's see how we can tumble around and zoom, or what are the way of doing this. Now there are tools available for this from uh, panel, no sorry, camera tools. Now these are the camera tools that we are generally use, but we don't use them as a tool. We generally used these, all these things as a keyboard shortcut. So how we can do that? We have to press Alt, and the 3-button mouse will help you out. So Alt and left button mouse will tumble, Alt and middle mouse will pan, and Alt and right click will zoom in and out. Now here is a catch. You can use the scroll mouse for zooming in, but you can see the scroll mouse is actually zooming in as a particular, it's not smooth, it's jumping. But if you use Alt and right click, you can smoothly zoom in and out of your scene. That is very, very, very important. Now from getting to 4 view to the single view, we generally use spacebar. So the spacebar is really sensitive in terms of your mouse pointers. So if your mouse pointer is in perspective viewport, and if you hit spacebar, you can zoom into that perspective view. Whereas if your mouse pointer is in top view or any other views, it will zoom into that. But that was absolutely depending on the viewports. It doesn't works on the attribute editor or other parts, so you don't have to worry about them. Okay, I generally works on the perspective viewport, but as I'm using this software for a very long time, I can use this way. But I will suggest you that you should use 4 view while you're starting your modeling in Maya. That will help you to understand the position of your objects and also do your modeling in a very neat and clean way. Okay, so let's start creating something. Now for that, we have to go to the create menu. Now if you go to the create menu, there are 3 different kind of objects that you can start with. One is knobs, polygon, and curves. That these are the 3 things which will help you to create an objects from scratch. Now apart from that, the volume primitive, the lights and camera are completely different things for creation. These things doesn't actually help you for into modeling something out. So what I will do is, let's start with uh, primitives of knobs. So NURBS is a abbreviation, is a short term of non-uniform rational basis spline. I'm not going to get into the details of these things because these things you can search and study if you're really into the 3D application things. So you can get them in anywhere in in Wikipedia, or maybe Google, just Google it down and see the why these things are called as a basis spline, and why these are called non-uniform and rational also. So I'm not going to get into that deep because that is something which you have to read through rather than watching it as a video tutorial. Okay, so you can start with the NURBS primitive. You can click on sphere and immediately you can see that one object has been created. So this particular NURBS sphere is out there, but in modeling generally in the industry we use NURBS primitives in a very less places. A lot of people still use it. Earlier days, when the mesh object or the polygonal objects are not there, NURBS was the only method to create a particular 3D object. Later on, the mesh or the polygon objects has been developed, and since then the polygon has become the most important a way of creating a new model. So I would suggest you to take NURBS a little bit of as a secondary learning things for the current scenario in the industry, and take the polygon as a primary one. But you still can use NURBS if you are really interested. But to be very honestly, in the industry, hardly people use NURBS anymore in current scenario or current time. Okay, so just for creating certain object, I just created for NURBS, and let's suppose start creating a polygon object also, like a cube, and you cannot see them because that has been hidden. So there, how can you say it's been hidden? Because the size of the box is completely different. Now if you hit 4 into your keyboard, you can see you has been converted into a wireframe view. Now wireframe view is something where you can see through objects from one through see through your objects, and you can see if there is a objects behind that or inside it. And if you hit 5, you come back to the shaded view where you can actually have a solid sort of surface. But that is only as for the viewing purpose. There is no such thing that is your object doesn't have any sort of shape, or there's your object doesn't consisting of any particular shape. So 4 is for wireframe view, 5 is for shaded view. Now if you click on the object, it will get selected. Now this is a very important thing because selection in Maya is very important. If you click on that particular object, that object will be selected. If you drag on that, you can see the object is selected but the color is different. The reason is I have dragged an entire region, and I am telling Maya you can select whatever the objects are out there within that particular dotted box. I think this is a very similar, if you have worked on Photoshop, this is a selection marquee tool. This is the same thing. This is a box marquee tool, you can say, or rectangular marquee tool. So this is something which is very interesting, and will give you an idea about the 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional objects and how they actually work. So if you hit 4, and you can see both of my objects has been selected. Now again I'm deselecting by selecting on a vacant place, and I'll just click on my object, and now I have selected my NURBS sphere. And immediately when you select it, you can see my channel box is actually giving me the information about my translate, rotate and scale value, as well as certain input uh, uh, input node value also. I'm not going to come into this right now in this. So I will explain you about these things in the later videos. So first of all, let's select the thing and try to move them, because my objects are getting hidden and I cannot see them. So how can we move my objects? So first I have to select it, and for that I have to go to the wireframe view. I have to click on the object, and then I have to go to my move tool from here. Immediately you can see the three-dimensional app gizmo will be activated, and I want to move them in an x-axis. Immediately you can see my channel box is also showing the same data. So that means I can, I'm just undo it by hitting Ctrl Z, and I can just feed a particular value like most probably 5, and my object can get moved. Hit 5 to get into the shaded view, and I can see my objects are actually can move the 5 unit. So this is also another way of moving your objects. But right now I'm going to introduce you to my YouTube uh, the tools. So first of all, this tool is the move tool. Apart from that, I have rotate tool as well as my scale tool. Now while creating primitives, I can use most probably a cone, but there is another way of creating these objects. So at the bottom of your primitive, you can see there's an option called interactive creation. If you turn them on, and now if you click on cube, you will see drag the base on the grid, then pull up for height. So this is Maya's way of telling you certain instructions, and if you click and drag and leave it and just click and push up and down, you can have your object created. So this is something which is similar to 3ds Max. Now as Autodesk acquired both the softwares, so earlier days what Autodesk has done, they have import uh, few of the working procedures from 3ds Max to Maya and vice versa. Okay, so here I can see I can create my objects as the way I want it, because if I select and just click on just turn off the interactive creation and click on the object like cube, it will be created with a very basic value and a basic shape. Whereas if I want something which I want from a very specific shape, I can turn on the interactive creation and go to the cube, click and drag, then push it up, and I can say, okay, you know what, I don't want a cube, I want a uh, rectangular shape. So that way I can actually do something like that, though that doesn't matter because I actually can change these objects, which I will show you later. So first of all, let's delete them and let's make it torus, and I'm comfortable with interactive creation by turning off the interactive creation, so I'm using that. So by torus, by clicking the torus, I can see all my objects over here. Torus has been created, and now I will see how my rotate tool is working. Now you can see it's not a very big, very nice object to show rotate. Maybe a cone? Yeah. Okay. So now I can see my rotate gizmo pretty well. Now see, I have a gizmo, and also it can show me, it will actually help me out while which direction or which axis I want to rotate. I want to rotate in the z axis, I want to rotate in the x axis, I want to rotate in the y axis. Now x, y, z has been represented in RGB values. So R is for X, which is a very standard procedure in 3D applications. The X is on red, G will be in Y, and B is in Z. One more thing I forgot to mention, that Maya is actually is set up where the y-axis is the upward. There are a lot of other applications which the y-axis is not in the up axis, the z-axis is the up axis. So you need to be careful about that, because when you are exporting certain model from other applications to Maya, you need to know this information also. Okay, so let's rotate my object, and I can see my channel box is actually taking that particular feed. Maybe I can use a perfect 90-degree rotation. And yes, I can, as I mentioned earlier, that I can use this rotational values also manually. Next comes the scale tool. Now scale tool, let's make it 0 again. Now scale tool is something which is really handy when you are using any model. Now you can either use universal scale, or you can scale it in specific axis like x, y and z, or maybe any two axes like x and y, or x and z, you can see, and as well as y and z. So these are the three things which is really handy sometimes while you are working in modeling section. So these are the basic things for to start with. I know there are a lot of information has been feeded, and you guys might be like, phew, a lot of informations are out there. So this is something to start with. You just go through whatever I have given you as an information, and see around, make all these objects, moving them around, move and rotate and scale them. Just go through it, and the next video we are going to create something out of this primitive objects, and only the tools that we have learned in this video, that is move, rotate and scale. Apart from that, I will additionally give you some more information regarding how to create some models, some basic models, and that will help you out to create something really interesting. So let's see in the next video. Thank you very much.